Frankfurt Airport has long been Germany's largest aviation gateway, a place where thousands of flights, tens of thousands of passengers, and enormous volumes of cargo move continuously every day, turning the airport into a machine that is almost never allowed to stop. But as global travel demand continues to rise, one major question emerges. How can an already overloaded airport be expanded without disrupting its own operating rhythm? Germany's answer is Terminal 3, a completely new terminal worth around 4 billion euros, built on the site of a former military base, wedged between runways and electric rail lines to open up more space for tens of millions of passengers each year. But how can such a massive terminal be built without disrupting the daily rhythm of the airport? Join Mandarin Tech as we explore the construction journey of Terminal 3, the expansion project that has brought Frankfurt Airport into a new era.
By the end of the 20th century, European aviation entered a clear paradox. Demand for air travel continued to rise, while airport space was steadily running out. The global aviation industry fell into crisis, with empty terminals and waves of canceled flights. Many airports were forced to scale back operations. But at Frankfurt Airport, Germany's largest airport, the trend unfolded differently. Even during periods of instability, passenger numbers continued to grow. By the 1990s, the airport's two existing terminals were already handling more than 54 million passengers a year, far beyond their original design capacity. And at a time when the aviation industry was under unprecedented pressure, Frankfurt chose to go against the tide by investing in Terminal 3. Valued at around $4 billion, the project was not merely a response to immediate capacity constraints, but a strategic decision, a bet on the recovery of aviation and on Frankfurt's long-term role as a central hub in Europe's transport network. The scale of Terminal 3 is reflected not only in the size of the structure itself, but also in the way it is integrated into the airport's overall system. A nearly 6-kilometer-long SkyLine line was built to directly connect Terminal 3 with the existing terminals. The journey from the airport's central area to the new terminal takes only about 8 minutes. The entire system operates fully automatically, without drivers. Trains run every 2 minutes, reaching a maximum speed of 80 km/h. The SkyLine station at Terminal 3 is approximately 150 meters long and 30 meters wide, with 2 platforms that allow trains to arrive and depart simultaneously. Outside the station is the public road network, followed by the twin tracks of the APM system, then an industrial service road, and furthest away, the apron area. All of these zones are separated by fencing and controlled by independent security systems. When completed, Terminal 3 is expected to serve around 20 million passengers per year. The central terminal consists of 3 main buildings: Building 600, the main hall; Building 601, the security screening area; and Building 602, the commercial zone, designed with a forward-looking approach. From here, passengers move on to 3 piers, G, H, and J, which are capable of accommodating wide-body aircraft. The land to the south of Frankfurt Airport had served as a U.S. military base for several decades. When the Terminal 3 project was given the green light in 2015, the first task was not to build the terminal itself, but to deal with ground that had never been designed for large-scale civilian infrastructure. Within the first 6 months, the construction site was effectively turned upside down. Every day, 5,500 cubic meters of soil were excavated and transported away, equivalent to roughly 300 truckloads per day. The central foundation pit was rapidly dug to a depth of 5.5 meters, reaching close to the groundwater level, with a total volume of nearly 70,000 cubic meters, large enough to accommodate a future main hall, with an area comparable to 9 football fields. To install the entire technical infrastructure below ground, construction teams continued excavating to a depth of 14 meters. Under conditions of constant groundwater intrusion, conventional construction methods were no longer viable. Professional divers were deployed to assist with pouring the concrete base slab underwater, before the water was pumped out, treated, and returned to the surrounding soil environment. The foundation base was then cast with large-scale concrete pouring to create a stable footing for the entire structure above. Once the foundations were stabilized, the site moved into a decisive phase, constructing the load-bearing structure for the entire Terminal 3. Thousands of reinforced concrete columns were built simultaneously, forming a massive structural frame capable of supporting a terminal roof spanning hundreds of thousands of square meters above. At the same time, the main steel beams were installed using heavy lift cranes, following a sequence calculated with precise accuracy. This is not only the backbone of the building, but also a factor that will determine how the terminal operates for decades to come. From load-bearing capacity and vibration control, to the integration of technical systems, internal transport, and the movement of tens of millions of passengers each year. From this point onward, Terminal 3 was no longer just a vast excavation pit. It began to take shape, like an airport city being assembled layer by layer, right in the heart of Frankfurt. Once the main structural frame was completed, the site moved into the phase of enclosing the building and shaping the terminal's interior space. Large-span roof structures were installed in sections, providing wide, clear spans while allowing natural light to enter the space below. At the same time, glass facades and steel structures were constructed in parallel, forming the protective envelope of the entire building. Inside the terminal, core technical systems begin to be installed in parallel, including electrical networks, ventilation, air conditioning, high-capacity elevator systems for vertical circulation, and information technology infrastructure. At the same time, internal partitions and lightweight wall systems are constructed to organize operational spaces and passenger circulation flows. From this point onward, Terminal 3 gradually transitions from a construction site into a complex operational system ready for high-intensity airport operations. In parallel with the construction of the terminal, the SkyLine rail system was developed as a key piece of infrastructure for Terminal 3. This APM line was designed to directly connect the new terminal with Frankfurt Airport's existing terminal system, ensuring fast passenger movement independent of surface traffic. The entire route runs on an elevated concrete guideway using two parallel tracks that allow continuous two-way operation. The system operates fully automatically, without drivers, at high frequency, and with absolute precision, a mandatory requirement in an international airport environment with intense operational demand. As the infrastructure neared completion, SkyLine was fully integrated into the terminal space, with seamless transfer points becoming the transport backbone that enables Terminal 3 to operate smoothly from day one. Building a structure is difficult. Building a massive structure in the middle of an operating airport is far more complex. For Terminal 3, logistics was not a separate work package, but a challenge that permeated the entire project. Enormous volumes of materials were continuously delivered to the site: steel, concrete, precast components, and technical equipment. Much of this could not be installed immediately, requiring repeated relocation and temporary storage before reaching its final position. Despite the large construction area, space was constantly limited, as every zone had to be shared between construction activities, internal site traffic, and airport operational safety. Ultimately, the success of this coordination rested on the workforce. With precise planning and tight coordination, the site was able to function smoothly.
After nearly 11 years of construction, Terminal 3 at Frankfurt Airport officially entered the operational phase. But for a massive terminal to open, the work did not stop at completing the concrete, glass roof, or interior areas. Before welcoming its first passengers, the entire internal system had to go through a strict testing process, from baggage conveyors, security checkpoints, signage, passenger coordination systems, to the connection route between the terminals. This was the stage that transformed Terminal 3 from a construction project into a real operating machine. Passenger flows were checked, passenger processing times were calculated, the baggage system was tested, while the check-in areas, security control zones, and boarding gates had to operate in sync with one another. In particular, the SkyLine system played an important role in bringing Terminal 3 into service. Because the new terminal is located separately in the southern area of the airport, connecting it with Terminal 1, Terminal 2, and the long-distance railway station became a mandatory requirement. The automated SkyLine train was designed to link all the terminals, allowing passengers to travel from the central area of the airport to Terminal 3 in just over 7 minutes. This not only shortens transfer time, but also prevents Terminal 3 from being isolated from Frankfurt Airport's existing operational network. During the testing phase, SkyLine also had to be checked as part of the overall operating system. Train frequency, passenger handling capacity, access routes from the terminal to the platform, signage, and coordination between different areas all had to function accurately. For an airport with traffic as large as Frankfurt, even a single bottleneck in the connection between terminals could affect the entire passenger experience. After that came the process of relocating airlines. Many airlines currently operating at Terminal 2 would be moved to Terminal 3, while Terminal 2 entered a process of renovation and modernization. Condor would also move to the new terminal, but according to plan, this would take place in the summer of 2027. When Terminal 3 enters operation, Frankfurt Airport does not simply gain another new terminal. The airport gains a modern operating center designed to serve up to 25 million passengers each year.
When Terminal 3 officially opens, the greatest challenge will no longer be on the construction site, where cranes, concrete, steel, and thousands of workers once operated for many years. From that moment, the pressure shifts to the control room, the check-in area, the security checkpoint, the baggage conveyors, the SkyLine system, and each boarding gate. A terminal can be built according to design, but only when it enters real operation is the entire system truly tested. Every day, thousands of passengers will pass through Terminal 3 with luggage, connecting schedules, and time pressure. From the moment they enter the terminal, they must be guided clearly through each area: check-in, baggage drop, security screening, finding the boarding gate, and boarding the aircraft. Even a small bottleneck can create a chain reaction. A slow baggage conveyor, an overloaded security area, unclear signage, or a SkyLine train running out of rhythm can all affect the experience of the entire terminal. Therefore, the post-opening phase is not the end of the project, but a large-scale operational test. Frankfurt Airport must continuously monitor passenger flows, adjust staffing, check baggage handling speed, and supervise coordination between Terminal 3 and the old terminals. What was once calculated on drawings must now face the real operating rhythm of an international airport. Airlines must also adapt to the new environment, from check-in counters, flight schedules, and boarding gates to ground handling operations. For that reason, opening day is not the endpoint of Terminal 3. It is the moment when this project begins to prove its true value in the future of Frankfurt Airport. The arrival of Terminal 3 does not simply give Frankfurt Airport another new terminal. It changes the way this entire airport will operate in the future. First, Terminal 3 helps the airport significantly expand its passenger handling capacity instead of continuing to place pressure on Terminal 1 and Terminal 2. For many years, the old terminals had to handle an increasingly large volume of passengers, while the room for expansion within the existing system became increasingly limited. When Terminal 3 enters operation, a significant portion of passenger traffic and airlines can be redistributed to the new area, helping the entire airport operate in a more balanced way. The relocation of many airlines to Terminal 3 also allows Terminal 2 to enter the process of renovation and modernization without causing too much disruption to the entire system. This is important because for a busy airport like Frankfurt, upgrading an old terminal can only be carried out effectively when there is a large enough replacement space available. But the impact of Terminal 3 is not only about capacity. Because it was planned from the beginning, this terminal has clearer passenger flows, with the check-in area, security screening, baggage drop, and boarding gates organized more coherently. This helps passengers move through the airport faster, more easily, and with less stress. Together with the SkyLine system, Connecticut scanners, and modern passenger processing technologies, Terminal 3 turns Frankfurt Airport into a more flexible airport. From an expansion project,
It becomes a preparation step for the future of one of Europe's most important aviation hubs. From a site that once belonged to a former United States military base, Terminal 3 went through nearly 11 years of construction to become one of the most important expansion projects in the history of Frankfurt Airport. This project is not only a story of concrete, steel, glass, or automated train lines connecting the terminals. It is the way a long-established airport restructures itself to enter a new phase of modern aviation. Terminal 3 gives Frankfurt Airport more space, more capacity, and greater adaptability in the face of future growth pressure. But more importantly, it shows that a new terminal is only truly complete when the entire system inside operates smoothly, from passengers, baggage, security, and airlines to each SkyLine train moving between the terminals. And that is also why Terminal 3 does not simply expand Frankfurt Airport. It opens a new chapter for one of Europe's largest aviation hubs. If you found this video useful, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and join Mandarin Tech as we explore more incredible engineering megaprojects around the world.